Now, as an absolute counterpoint to everything that Dr. King and all decent people have, whites and blacks and people of color, not just African Americans, but and white people who have tried to bring about racial justice. And by racial justice, that includes everything: the right to buy a house if you're a person of color, the same as a person of not color, the right to a job, the right to an education, the right to vote, the right to not walk down the street and have someone scream a racial epithet at you. I mean, for those people who have worked for years and years and years, righteous white people, black people who have struggled, working toward what? Toward one goal: equal justice. That's all. Equal justice. And to have that equal justice, because we are human beings, codified into law. Equal justice under law. And equal justice under law obviously means everything. Everything that is just dealt out equally. That's all. Simple concept, but it has driven white supremacists insane, mad, drooling, raving, howling at the moon mad for 300 years. And one of those groups that has been driven mad, drooling, howling, viciously mad is the so-called Oath Keepers. Yeah, them. Now, as you know, the leader of the Oath Keepers, the one I call Popeye, Stuart Rhodes, was busted along with 10 of his top lieutenants, and they're all facing seditious rioting. What is it called? Seditious conspiracy. That's what it's called. And by the way, that is a Civil War era statute under which they were charged. It's very seldom used, but we very seldom had a bunch of crazed white people needing to be charged under this statute. But Stuart Rhodes and 10 other members or associates of his band of Nazis, the fact that they were all arrested was stunning. It certainly was to me. I've been bitching and wheezing and farting on this podcast for months now. When are the real arrests going to come? Why are these people charged with illegal entry? Why are they charged with parading through the Capitol without a permit or some such shit? Well, okay. I've got my answer. Because federal prosecutors have spent this past year investigating the insurrection. And they're not going to put the word out. They're not going to say, well, we discovered this today, we discovered that tomorrow. Or yesterday. So these 11 swine, who, in my opinion, and I've said this before, they tried to take down the fucking country. I mean, come on. What's going to happen to this UK citizen? Well, he was shot dead, but this young guy who took 4 people hostage at the synagogue in where was it? In Texas on Saturday on the Jewish holy day. What would have happened to him? He would have been jailed, charged with God knows what, and never saw the light of day again, which is the way it should have been. I have no problem with that. I am not the least bit interested in religion, but I do believe that when people are in a house of their choosing, a house of worship of their choosing, then everybody else stay the fuck away. It's none of your business what they're doing. Now, and the only group I know of who's really done this are the fascist Christians. Once they emerge from their houses of worship and start trying to make laws based on their religion, that's where I say, no, stop. You want to worship a chair? I don't give a shit what you worship, but don't try to shove it down my throat. Don't tell me if I don't follow the laws from your religious cult, there's something wrong with me, or you're going to do something to me. That's where the bullshit starts, and that's where I stop. So, that I guess it was a teenager, who took those people hostage. Had he not been shot dead, he would face a long time in prison. I hope that Stuart Rhodes and his 10 co-conspirators are put on trial for seditious conspiracy. I don't know what the penalty is. I guess the penalty is decades in prison, which I think would be okay. It's not what I would choose if I were a prosecutor or a judge. You know what my attitude is toward people who would destroy the country. I have all kinds of arguments against the policies of the United States over the course of my lifetime. Oh, fuck yes. Even going back to when I was a baby and found out later that while I was just not even old enough to enter kindergarten, we had vaporized 250,000 people in 2 cities in Japan with nuclear weapons. I've had lots of arguments against the policies of this country, externally and internally, the policies. But never to the point of let's overthrow the government. Let's destroy the idea of a democratic republic through force. Throw the bastards out through voting? Yes. Hell yes. But that's what made our little experiment unique. That we would elect our leaders, tolerate them if we realized once they were in office that they were lying son of a bitches, which we found out so many times with Democrats as well as always with Republicans, but certainly with Democrats at times. But at the end of their term, we could throw the bums out and bring in a new group. So yeah, as far as policies of my country are concerned, foreign and domestic, some of them have made me sick, made me cry, made me weep, made me rage with anger about what was being done in my name. I'm a citizen of this country. And when we provide the wherewithal for the Saudis to butcher 1 million Yemenis, men, women, and children, for what? Yeah, I walk around with a feeling of just revulsion against what we're doing. But we have a chance through a democratic republic to remove the son of a bitches until what has happened now is happening. And that is changing everything. The way these fascist Christians are doing, so far they've done it in 19 or 20 states. The goal is to do it in all the states. That's why the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is so important. But I digress. These scum-sucking oath keepers, and if ever there was a bastardization of a term, it's called these bums oath keepers. They are not oath keepers. They are oath defilers. They're filth. They're Nazis. But 2 days after the election, on November 3rd, 2020, 2 days later, these scum were already telling themselves and each other that the presidency had been stolen from the orange vomit. And they started making plans then to march on the U.S. Capitol. So anytime you hear some rat-fucking Nazi, some Trump supporter talk about, well, it was very spontaneous, people were going there to demonstrate, but then it got out of hand. Bullshit. This was planned. They had armed insurrectionists nearby in Virginia. But because they're scum, because they're bums, because they're led by a pop-eyed fat fuck, because of all that, they couldn't get their shit together to do what they'd been telling each other they were going to do for a year. Because they're scum. Not for a year. For 3 months. So, the idea that this was just a spontaneous event is total bullshit. 4 days after the vote, Popeye, Stuart Rhodes, wrote to other members of this Nazi group, according to court documents, quote, "We aren't getting through this without a civil war. Too late for that. Prepare your mind, body, and spirit. Oh, such sanctimonious words. You fuckers don't have a spirit. And I question mind. That's something we learned about at the goddamn YMCA 60 years ago. Mind, body, and spirit. These people, these oath keepers, in a way, they crack me up. So, after the vote, when the Associated Press and other news outlets declared Joe Biden the winner, these court documents say that Popeye told other oath keepers to, quote, refuse to accept it and march en masse on the nation's capital. Now, if that's not violent, seditious conspiracy, such a thing doesn't exist. The documents also show how quickly the Orange Vomit's most deeply brainwashed and dangerous supporters got their shit together to subvert the election results through force and violence by any means necessary. They didn't give a shit. Even though such a thing, this election fraud that the Orange Vomit had been pushing since he first got elected, never occurred. And also Trump's cabinet and local election officials all over the state, the country, they all said it had been free and fair, of course, but that doesn't matter to Nazis. Now, as you know by now, hundreds of people, 600 or 700, have been charged in the effort to stop the certification of Biden's victory and bring an end to our experiment in self-governance. And many of those people were goosed up by the Orange Vomit speech at that rally near the White House just before the riot, where the Orange Vomit, all dressed up like just looking so pretty, like he was going to go march in front of another church and hold a Bible upside down. He said, we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. What a son of a bitch. Please, will somebody indict him? But you got to understand, for Popeye Rhodes and these Nazi fuck who follow him, there's no need for Trump to say all that shit because they had been planning what they were going to do for weeks. Now, Popeye's name is Elmer Stewart Rhodes III. He founded the Oath Keepers in 2009. And according to the Associated Press, he and some of his friends decided they would form an organization around the perception of imminent tyranny, because they were concerned about federal overreach and a series of threats they couldn't identify, or they had no proof, like the government. Now, who was president in 2009? Right. Like the Obama administration was planning to attack its own citizens. But you see, Popeye Rhodes is a white racist fuck Nazi. So he had a perfect foil. An African-American president, Barack Obama. Ooh, the Negroes are going to take over. Ooh, the Negroes are going to rape all the white women. Ooh, the Negroes are going to go around house to house and kill all of us real patriots. Ooh, we got to do something. Ooh. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.